Alrighty, Tuesday, March 12th, we are looking at post CPI action here for a session recap. Starting off with ES. Came into the session wanting to see how price was going to be trading versus that prior day high. And essentially the logic here behind watching that prior day action, that prior day structure, was simply the fact that price is within a near-term range. We did have a bit of a blow off here marked on Friday. We've kind of been seeing that as a theme, right? You mark a high, index marks a high, you get some selling, you get a fresh high, some selling, right? Same thing on Friday. Mark a high and some selling. Now, despite that pattern, price has remained fairly range bound, but that is the current setup that we have seen. And so what I wanted to see following yesterday's action is whether all of this consolidation was accumulation or not, right? We have the near-term volume point of control right through here. That is holding as support, which gives me the first indication that most likely all of the action from yesterday are contracts being accumulated near the lows of the range, right? You also have a structure here that resembles a trend, a series of higher lows. And so the logic coming into today's sesh is, all right, well, if buyers can sustain yesterday's high, or at the very least yesterday's structure, most likely what's going to happen here is prices are going to resolve higher. We'll test that 52.20 and potentially up into that 52.50. That's kind of what I had outlined this morning in the pre-market prep live stream. And so if we actually take a look at today's action, what you can see here is post CPI, you get the quick blip lower into that prior day volume point of control, which as a reminder is always going to be a really strong reference point to be keeping an eye on from the day prior. So this yellow line right through here, that is that prior day volume point of control. Price test it during that pre-market session post CPI, right? Pretty strong bounce up through 5,200. No real sellers there, but we do start to see some selling into that 52.20. So price respecting the levels perfectly. And I reiterate that because I do see a lot of traders in the online space mentioning that, you know, anytime there's news, anytime there's volatility, price does not respect the technicals. That is total BS. Don't believe it. We could see right here, not only today, but time and time again, how well price respects the technicals when we have big volatility, when we have big volume. So coming into the open, you do have essentially sellers stepping in here. We get the retest of that 51.80. No real bid at that prior day high, right? You get a little blip right through there, but this is not a tradable signal. We want to wait for that real test of the prior day volume point of control, that 51.80 level of interest. And from there, it's essentially a 65 point bounce, right? So once you get this signal, you want to be long. And if you can't nail the low there, you definitely want to be looking for some type of entry to get long to try and ride this up into 52.20 and potentially the 52.50. Now, if you miss this initial move, right, price gives you that drift lower. Get a bit of a low volume drift here into VWAP, right? And if I am not mistaken, I believe we had a decent Fibonacci retracement level right there. So if you've been with us a while, you know I love to look at the 50 and 61% retracement levels after a trend move like we had today. Here's your 50% right through here. So you can align that 50% with your VWAP setup for an very, very high probability long trade that aligns nicely with the 2-hour trader framework to trade this up into 52.38. which is 26 point move. So overall, some very strong opportunities today. This is definitely a day that you want to be reviewing, that you want to be studying, even if you totally botched it, or even if you did really well today. You want to be looking at today's action and really understanding how price responded to the levels, how price responded to VWAP, how price responded to those fibs, including that pre-market action, because there were some Really great technical setups today. On a day like today, this should be an outsized performance type of day. So that being said, what are we looking at for tomorrow? Well, I kind of just outlined the main theme of what we've been seeing recently, with price making the fresh high, selling, right? Fresh high, selling. Friday, fresh high, right? Selling. And so what we want to see is whether or not buyers can break this high. And then if the high is going to be broken, do we see acceptance above that 52.57 or not? Acceptance just means, is price holding above that 52.57, or do we have a swift rejection? Right? And that'll kind of give us some clues as to what to expect on Thursday and Friday. So main watch into tomorrow, again, depending on that overnight action, I'm going to be looking again at today's high to see if buyers are going to show any type of continuation to test the recent highs, and whether or not those recent highs are going to be broken to the upside. Overall, great action today in ES. Let's have a look at NQ. So NQ structurally is similar, not identical, but quite similar. This is a little bit more of a cleaner range, sideways range, right? Remember in ES, we did have that series of lower highs. You're not really seeing that here in NQ. Price, just trading or testing this area of support right through here. Now catching a bounce, very similar to what we saw in ES, holding that prior day high, holding that near-term volume point of control on these higher time frame charts here. That was, of course, after a test of that 18,180 level of interest. Trades up and through the 18,400. That was a solid reference point for today, and now working on that near-term range high. So current location, this 18,500 area is a bit of no man's land for me personally. What I'll be looking at very similarly to ES is whether buyers from today can sustain this move higher. So we want to see essentially how that 18,500 is going to be treated. That's just going to be a reference point, not really a level of interest. And there is a distinction between the two. And so we'll be looking at that 18,500 to see if there's any type of continuation. Alrighty. So range trading NQ as well as ES. ES a bit closer to those all-time highs. We'll see if it can press the highs tomorrow. Also have the 30-year auction tomorrow, which could potentially be a market moving event. That's going to be midday. As far as individual names, we're looking at Oracle. Individual names list was quite dry. We're looking at Oracle. This gave a decent setup today. Opening drive type of play into just shy of PT1. Not quite there. I'm going to be treating this as a second day for tomorrow. So just watching today's range. And then we had Moderna. This was an inside day. So pretty clean inside day following yesterday's broad buy bar on big volume. Want to see how this inside day breaks. Breaks to the upside, we can see that daily time frame change in character trigger. But it is slow season for the individual name, so we're going to be more focused on the index. That's about it for today. Hope everyone had a great session. Hope you guys posted some great trades. If you have questions about anything, feel free to shoot me a DM. Don't forget to review today's action. Some really strong action today. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the pre-market prep live stream. Have a great evening.